My name is Daniel. I am 43 years old. I have been married for 11 years. My wife's name is Laura. She is 38 years old.
We live in a quiet neighborhood. Small house, nice street, simple life. We do not have children, not because we did not want them. We tried. For years we tried. But life sometimes makes decisions for you without asking. I thought we were okay. I thought I knew my wife. I thought I knew my life. I was wrong.
It was a Thursday evening. Laura had gone grocery shopping. I was sitting at the kitchen table with my laptop. I was checking our bank account. Just a normal thing I do every month. Then I saw something strange. T. Henderson, $880. Every month for the past 9 months. I did not know any T. Henderson. I scrolled back through the months, January, February, March, all the way to September. Same name, same amount, every single month. My heart started beating faster. When Laura walked through the door with grocery bags, I was still sitting there, staring at the screen. I turned the laptop toward her. I said, "Who is T. Henderson?" Laura put the bags down slowly. She did not answer right away. Then she said, "Just someone I am helping out." I said, $880 every month? For 9 months, Laura? She looked away toward the window. Her hand started moving nervously. I have known Laura for 11 years. I know when she is uncomfortable. I know when she is hiding something. I said, "Laura, please tell me the truth." She said nothing. That night, we went to bed without speaking. After that night, everything felt different. Laura started taking phone calls in the hallway. She smiled at messages and quickly turned her screen away. She seemed distracted, far away, even when she was sitting right next to me. One evening, she told me she had to work late. I left the office early that day. I followed her. I am not proud of that. I still feel shame when I think about it. But when you do not trust someone you love, fear takes over, and fear makes you do things you never thought you would do. Laura did not drive to her office. She drove 25 minutes outside the city. She parked in front of a small house on a quiet street. I stayed in my car and watched. The front door opened. A woman stepped out. She looked around 35 years old. She was thin, very thin, tired-looking, like someone carrying a heavy weight every single day. And beside her was a boy, maybe 8 or 9 years old. Laura got out of the car. She walked straight to the boy and knelt down. She hugged him warmly, naturally, like she had done it many times before, like she knew him well. The boy laughed at something she said, and even from a distance I could see his face clearly, his eyes, his nose. They looked like mine. I drove home before Laura left. My hands were shaking the entire way. I sat in our living room in the dark, and I thought one thing over and over. Who is that boy?
That night, we had dinner together. Laura asked about my day. I gave short answers. She did not notice anything different. Or maybe she did and chose not to say anything. 3 days later, I could not keep quiet anymore. We were in the bedroom. It was late. Laura had just finished getting ready for bed. I said, "I followed you last week." She stopped moving. I said, "I saw the house. I saw the woman. I saw the boy." Laura turned around slowly. Her face went pale. Her eyes filled with tears immediately. I asked the question that had been living inside my chest for days. I said, "Is that boy my son?"
Laura sat down on the edge of the bed. She said quietly, "Daniel, no, he is not your son." I said, "Then why does he look like me?" She took a long breath. She said, "Because his mother knew you a long time ago, before you and I ever met." The room felt very still. I said, "What are you talking about?" Laura told me everything, slowly, through tears. Her close friend from college was named Rebecca. Rebecca had a younger sister named Sophie. Sophie and I had met briefly during my first year at university. It was a short chapter, a few months. It ended quietly. I had not thought about Sophie in over 15 years. But something came from that time that I never knew about. Sophie had gotten pregnant. She found out after we stopped seeing each other. She was young. She was scared. She thought I had my whole future ahead of me. She did not want to complicate my life. So she said nothing. She raised her son alone for 8 years. Then Sophie got sick, stage 3 cancer. Treatment was expensive. Medical bills piled up. She was close to losing her house. She had nobody to turn to. She found Laura through Rebecca. She reached out. She told Laura everything. She told her the boy was mine. Laura quietly arranged a DNA test. She used old things of mine, a shirt, a hairbrush. The results came back positive, and Laura told nobody. For 9 months, she sent money every month. She tried to help Sophie and the boy without telling me a single word. I sat there on the bed, and I did not speak for a long time. Then I said, "Laura, why didn't you tell me?" She was crying. She said, "I was afraid." I said, "Afraid of what exactly?" She said, "Afraid that you would leave, afraid that everything we built together would fall apart. Daniel, this was not your fault. This happened before us, before our marriage, before everything. But if I told you that you had a son out there, what would that do to us? I did not know. I was scared, so I thought I would just help quietly, handle it quietly, keep everything together." I said, "And what about me? Did I not have the right to know I had a son?" Laura had no answer. I did not sleep that night.
1 week later, Laura and I drove there together. Sophie opened the door. She looked much thinner than I remembered. Chemotherapy had taken her hair. Her skin was pale, but her eyes were calm. Tired, but calm. She said, "Hi, Daniel. I am sorry. I know that is not enough." I said, "It is not, but come inside and let us talk." We sat in her small living room. She told me everything herself, the same story Laura had told me, but in Sophie's own words. How young she was, how scared she felt, how she convinced herself it was the right decision, how every year that passed made it feel harder to reach out. She said, "You were moving forward. You graduated. You got married. You had a life. I did not want to walk in and destroy it." I said, "You should have told me, Sophie." She looked down. She said, "I know. I was wrong.
I am sorry." Then the boy came into the room. Sophie said softly, "Jake, come here." He walked in. 8 years old, quiet but curious. He looked at me with big eyes.
Sophie said, "This is Daniel. He is your dad." Jake looked at me for a moment. Then he said, "Mom talked about you." I knelt down to his level. I looked at his face properly. My nose, my chin, my eyes, all right there looking back at me. I said, "I did not know about you, Jake. I am so sorry, but I am here now." He nodded like he was thinking about it. Then he said, "Okay." Just like that. Okay. Like children can sometimes forgive what adults spend years trying to understand. Over the next weeks, I started visiting Jake regularly. He told me about his school, his best friend named Marcus, how he liked drawing but hated math, how his favorite food was pizza with extra cheese. He asked me questions that caught me off guard. He asked, "Do you know how to fix bikes?" I said, "A little bit. Why?" He said, "Mine has a flat tire. Mom cannot fix it." So that Saturday, I went over with the repair kit, and we fixed it together in the driveway. He talked the entire time. He was not shy at all once he felt comfortable. I drove home that evening and sat in my car for a while before going inside. 8 years, 8 birthdays, 8 Christmases, 8 first days of school, all gone, not because I chose to miss them, but because nobody told me. At home, Laura and I were still distant. We were polite, we were calm, but there was a wall between us that had not been there before. We slept on opposite sides of the bed. We moved around each other carefully, like two people trying not to break something that was already cracked. One night, I asked her again. I said, "If Sophie had not gotten sick, would you have ever told me?" Laura said, "Yes." I said, "Laura, are you sure?" She was quiet for a long time. Then she said, "I wanted to tell you. Every month I wanted to tell you, but every month I found a reason to wait a little longer." I said, "That is not the same as yes." She cried. She said, "You are right. I know you are right." I said, "This was not your secret to keep. Jake is my son. That decision belonged to me."
Sophie got worse quickly after that. Hospital visits became more frequent. The treatment stopped working. One afternoon, I went to see her. Jake was sitting beside her bed, holding her hand. A boy trying to be brave in a room that smelled like medicine. Sophie looked at me from the bed. She said, "Promise me you will never leave him, Daniel." I said, "I promise you, I will never leave him." She closed her eyes and nodded slowly. Sophie passed away 6 weeks later.
Jake moved in with us. The house felt completely different, louder, messier, more alive. The first night, he slept in the guest room. I stood outside his door after Laura went to sleep. I wanted to go in and check on him, but I stood in the hallway, frozen, 1,000 thoughts rushing through my head. What if I get this wrong? What if I am too late? What if he never really sees me as his father? I went to the bathroom and turned the water on, and I cried properly for the first time since all of this started. Laura found me there. She stood in the doorway. She said quietly, "I am sorry, Daniel. I am truly sorry." I looked at her. I said, "I know." We stood there together in the small bathroom for a while, not touching, but together. We started therapy a few weeks later, not because we hated each other, but because secrets do something to a marriage that you cannot fix just by talking at the kitchen table. We needed help. It was slow. Some sessions were painful. Laura talked about her fear of losing me. I talked about the anger of being kept out of my own son's life. The therapist helped us hear each other without shutting down. Slowly, things began to shift. Not back to what they were before. You cannot go back, but forward, towards something different, something more honest. Some mornings, I still feel the weight of those 8 years. Jake's first steps, his first word, the first time he laughed properly, the first time he fell off a bike and cried. I missed every single one of those moments. That is a loss I will carry for the rest of my life. But then Saturday morning comes, and Jake runs into our room at 7 a.m. before anyone is ready to be awake. He stands at the side of the bed and says, "Can we make pancakes?" Laura pulls the blanket over her head. I sit up. I say, "Yeah, buddy, let us make pancakes." He races me to the kitchen. He talks the whole time I am cooking about Marcus at school, about a video game he wants, about whether sharks could beat lions. Serious questions that require serious answers at 7 a.m. on a Saturday. And I answer every single one. Laura comes downstairs eventually, hair messy, coffee in hand. She watches us at the stove. She smiles. That smile that is part sorry and part happy and part something I do not have a word for yet. Jake sits between us at the table. He eats too fast. He spills orange juice. He argues that he needs more syrup. And I think, this is what I almost missed. I was not there for the first 8 years of my son's life. I cannot get those years back, but I will be here for every year that comes after, because Jake himself told me that day when we first met, "Mom talked about you." She kept my name alive for him, even when I did not know he existed. The least I can do is show up every single day for the rest of his life, and that is exactly what I'm going to do. If this story touched you, share it with someone who needs to read it today, and tell me in the comments, was Laura wrong to keep this secret, or do you understand why she did it?